version of the comic show. So it's not a deep it's not a deep work stream. It's me, DJ, the cartoonist. I'm up here in the little corner, and we can kind of just go double for a second if you want. Just to say hi, Jeremy.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy, content creator at VeeFriends, and gonna be just hanging, keeping DJ company, and looking forward to the insights.
Yeah, and then I'm DJ. I'm the cartoonist at VeeFriends, and we're gonna take a look today at the. Thank you, Jeremy. The comics. Here's the agenda for the comic show. So this is a rough draft. We wanted to do a different format for the Friday show. Sometimes Gary will be joining us. We never know what he's up to. He's running an empire, so he'll pop in maybe occasionally on these Friday shows or at different times. This is called the rough draft episode, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So if you're tuning in, replay, this is what we're going to talk about. The word of the week is vibe. But basically, in these Friday shows, we're going to take a real quick look through all the daily comics of the week and kind of just talk about them, how they went in the how they performed, like what we're thinking about them. If I have any like inside thoughts on the comics, then I'm going to be drawing today. I'm drawing 2 characters for the first time, so stay tuned to see which characters I'm going to be drawing for the first time. They're characters that are going to appear in the strip next week. And then we also have the question of the week. So at any time in the chat, if you're watching this on replay or just drop a comment, the question of the week is, how do you find your vibe? If you've lost your vibe or someone stole your vibe, how do you get that back? So I'm sure I'll talk about it. Jeremy will talk about his answer, and then we'll get to it. So make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff. And we're gonna jump right into looking through the comics. So what we're going to do, since it's a new week here, and we're kind of at the end of a week now. Next week we'll have a full 7 days to look at. We're going to look at the comics that we drew from the very beginning. So in case you're not familiar with the comics, this is a cool way to pause it and read through the comics. This first comic we created live with Gary on the announcement stream, or I started to create it. So the idea was that Flexing Fox was broke, and his friends Humble Hedgehog and Common Sense Cow were helping him figure out how to save some money. So the gag here was, of course, that he has so many subscriptions to things, right? And I actually started, Jeremy, I don't know about you, but I started adding up like how much I was subscribing to as well, and I actually canceled a couple things that I was.
DJ, you're putting me on the spot. I wish I could say I followed through. I had that thought, and I mean, I feel like I have this thought frequently where I'm like, I really need to tally where my subscriptions are at. It's definitely on my list for this month to clean out. I think we're gonna lose a streaming subscription or something. I'm also paying for Dropbox, which I feel like I don't use as much as I pay for it. It's a constant thing for me.
Yeah, so I definitely canceled 1 or 2.
That's awesome.
A couple bucks,
honestly, and that's kind of the dream outcome. Like, I hope that there are dozens of people who, whether or not they cancel them is their choice, but that they had a moment of reflection and presence with what their subscription bill looks like.
Yeah, so the gag in this one was that he's talking about all those, and then the Modest Mouse, or the is it not Modest Mouse? It's
Reliable Rat.
Reliable Rat. Oh, okay. I'm thinking of Mojo Mouse.
Yeah,
we'll talk about him in a second. Shows up with an DoorDash or Uber Eats, DoorDash in this case, and it's a $55 bagel. So,
which is not far off from the truth in New York City.
Yeah.
Extra lox, extra cheese runs you $40 easy.
Yeah, it's not far off from the truth anywhere. I think it's like $30 here in Pittsburgh. So, then we have the January 1st strip. So I went live on January 1st. We've got a guy outraged in the airport at his barista. This is something that really annoys Gary as well. So that may or may not be Gary. A little. I've been kind of putting the black cat in there occasionally. So the idea here was that the friends the VeeFriends humble hummingbird kind of calls in the other VeeFriends to kind of help the situation, right? So they have an empathy bomb. we toyed back and forth with like, should we use the word bomb in the strip? But it's like it's an empathy bomb, so it's also a cartoon strip, so it's okay. And I want to point out that that empathy bomb is also purple. I don't know if anybody, you know, could think of what might come from a purple empathy. And then yeah, so they drop that empathy bomb on the fella, and then he's like hearing all these like voices or whatever, or quotes. Maybe they're Gary quotes like flying at him. I don't know. People think you're being a jerk, and then he apologizes, and in the end, she gives him a free drink on the house. So it's some kindness there. So being kind to our service workers, and the birds are high-fiving at the end. So that was that comic. Also a fun one to draw, but I put way too much. This like just started, right? So we could talk a little bit about that. Like we jumped right into this daily schedule. This was before technically I was starting officially. And Gary texted me and said, "Hey, can you do this comic concept? Do you have time?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so it was what's kind of become like a pretty well-known comic in our history so far in a couple of weeks, was the Bison and the Catfish. Bison kind of comes in and eats the catfish.
This was probably the best performing comic so far, huh?
I don't know. I think it performed well, but I think the airport one is the best performing one so far.
It makes sense. It's a little more relatable.
Yeah, I think people were a little like people outside of VeeFriends were a little confused. I had a couple people message me from my world and say like, "Are you saying that compassion is a weakness and you should eat it?" And I'm like, "No, I think it's more of like an inside, like this
Yeah,
is more
it
of
was
an
very inside baseball for the VeeFriends community.
Yeah. So sometimes there's going to be some inside baseball strips. We're going to work on that too, like to kind of broaden the. So that was that strip, but that was really. I didn't even really understand it what I was drawing at the time. I was just like, okay, I got it. Like I can draw this. So then I thought, let's do a follow up.
Sorry to cut you off, but on the flip side, there could be a narrative. Instead of seeing compassion as a weakness, it could be part of your daily digest to stay hungry for your goals. Because you have to have compassion for like your own daily, weekly, monthly progress, right? Otherwise, you get locked in on, oh, I didn't finish my to-do list or whatever. But like a little progress is better than no progress.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So then I did a follow up comic. So we were trying like after I started, I think I don't know what day this was, but it was just like, okay, what about this concept? We have a lot of concepts in the behind the scenes, but I wanted to bring the catfish back. So he's in the belly of the bison, and the bison's not feeling so great. Like, what did you eat? And then we got the Never Give Up Catfish 2024. Fun note, I had this colored yellow and my wife was like, dude, don't make that like barf, like so I changed it. And then don't call it a comeback, which was a funny little so that's that.
Yeah, Dano just commented on the little Easter eggs.
Yeah, it's fun to add those Easter eggs in. Then we come to I don't know, it was one of my favorite strips to do was the vibe strip, And honestly, a little feedback or a little bit of background on this, not feedback, but I was just jumping into full-time work at VeeFriends with a lot of stuff going on in the back. And I'm like, the comics with the backgrounds were taking me like a lot longer time. So we talked about, well, why don't we make some that there are no backgrounds? And I'm not a huge fan of that, but like I was like, all right, cool. What if they're just dancing and they're vibing? And then the idea of the burglar stealing the vibe. So here you see like they've lost it, someone stole it, it's the burglar.
As a little more interesting background, did that like which came first, the idea of them dancing as a start to a comic, or the befuddled burglar stealing the vibe as like the punchline to the comic?
Yeah, I actually was going through Gary's notes for the characters and whatnot, and one of the notes for burglar was like something about him constantly stealing the vibe. Like he'll come in the room and steal the vibe. And I'm like, oh, I know that this image popped right in my mind as soon as I saw Gary's notes.
I love it. It feels kind of instantly iconic. It would make
Yeah.
like a great phone background too.
Yeah. So, and then we thought, well, we want to have these ongoing kind of things that we revisit. So it's like, okay, how do we get the vibe back? That's okay, apparently. So I think during this strip, we decided like, okay, we were going to give ourselves a little more cushion to launch the daily schedule. And because I thought initially, like coming in, I thought, well, we'll probably launch around the middle of the month. But everybody was just so excited about the strips. Gary was excited. I was excited. Everybody's like excitement.
We're
And I'm
all
like,
excited.
so I pretty much worked through the first weekend to try to be like, okay, we can do it. Like I can do this. No problem. It's just some organizational stuff. Let's start the daily up this week. So so that was the Friday strip, and then I think that was the first Monday strip, right? So now we're into this week. And then we did like sort of on Tuesday was the Willful Wizard strip, which kind of, I don't like to explain jokes, but that's what this show is about a little bit. Like we can dive a little bit deeper into the hidden stuff. Like so here we go again with like kind of like a simpler background because I was just trying to pull ahead. But I do re-ink all the panels. I don't like to do a lot of copy pasting if you watch some of the deep work streams. So yeah, Penguin's asking the wizard how to fly. And of course, the wizard's giving some like, very Sun Tzu, very Zen-like advice. And then this was the one where he's like, hey, you can't really just do it. You need a magic staff like mine. And where can I get one of those? And like the staff smiling too. I don't know if anyone knows.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he's like, he's gonna have like expressions. I wasn't sure if this staff was a orb or just a circle, or I wasn't sure, so I just kind of made it into a head. So it takes decades to make a staff like this one. So there's that first level of learning to fly, right? But then there's the second level of, well, it takes decades to get the right tools and the right skill sets sometimes. But then the third thing that someone caught was that this could be a double meaning, that he has a staff like employees, right? It took decades to build that staff. I saw one person mention like, my staff empowers me, like his staff at his business. So, and he had to build that staff. So that was kind of a little thing there. And then there were people in the comments that were like, I don't get it. And it's like,
it's okay.
Sometimes.
Yeah, my first reaction was that like penguins can't fly. Like it's outside of their
yes,
physiology. Like there could later be a comic with Penguin, working on this decade-long journey, and they run into self-aware hair. And self-aware hair is like, well, maybe you're destined for other great things, or maybe you need a different kind of tool than a staff. Maybe you need a plane or something.
Yeah. And then just an inside, like with the penguin. I think when I was thinking about the flight thing, that as I was inking it, I was thinking about one of my favorite comic strips is Outland or Bloom County, and I realized like, oh, they've got the Penguin Opus, and they have a children's book, A Wish for Wings That Work, and I was like, oh, so like there's like obviously the penguin that we're gonna mess with these tropes a lot, like penguins can't fly, they're wishing they could fly, and then there's a P on his beak. So I'm from Pittsburgh, and we have the Penguins here. I'm not a huge hockey fan or anything like that, but I was like, oh, it's a penguin. He's persistent. I'm from Pittsburgh, so yeah, that's that strip. And if there's any questions about the strips too in the comments, we can talk. This is what this is all about, like diving a little bit deep. I'm going to draw again. I'm just going to reset now that we've got a lot of people in here. We've got the word of the week is vibe. We're doing a daily comics recap right now. I'm going to be drawing 2 characters for the first time. Stay tuned to see which those are. See Gary sending a lot of people. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, and I'm keeping an eye on the chat for questions. If anybody has questions, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, wherever, feel free to leave a comment. And
Yeah,
hello to Synchrovan. Ciao, my friend.
yeah, and then the question of the week, if you want to throw this in the comments, is how do you find your vibe? If someone's stolen your vibe, how do you get it back? If the burglars come and stolen your vibe, how do you get that back? Which comic were we on? Okay, so then we revisited. Their vibe is gone. Fox is like, y'all are sad. They think the burglar stole it. Now, here's some insight to this comic. Was when I originally kind of drafted it, it was going to be that, like, why would, like, if someone stole something from you, wouldn't you just call the police? Like, rationally, you're thinking like that's the next part, right? So I think I originally had like, why don't you just like, we're gonna call the cops and let them figure it out, and like, but Flex and Fox was like, whoa, don't call the cops. Like, let's just go talk to him first because it might have been a misunderstanding, right? And then it was like, well, we don't really want to involve the cops. Like, let's keep it a VeeFriend. And they were like, and immediately I think Gary was like, moral monkey, and boom. So and then the line changed, and it was like, I love when I'm writing these lines and it makes me crack up a little bit behind the scenes. So the whole like, no need to call in the monkey.
Right.
Let me go see if I
Slow your roll. Slow your roll.
yeah.
Let me see what I
Don't
can
call
do.
the monkey just yet, right? And then this panel was also funny to me because I'm just having fun with this. So like, I thought it was ridiculous that, like, of course, like, we have in the notes somewhere of the character, like, he like speaks and kind of mumbles and stuff a little bit. So I kind of put that in there. I got the cat hiding out in the back again. And then he's apparently, his hideout says hideout on it. So it's just befuddling, like, like it's just silly. And then, yeah, the payoff at this one was that he's like, he believes the burglar, but Hedgehog's pointing out that his necklace is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a case too where his shoes are also gone.
Yeah.
So, and you don't need to say that. Like, if we pointed that out in the text, like, where are your chain and your shoes? Like, you want the readers to kind of notice some of these subtle things, And then the line at the end, call the monkey. So, which I think this is my best work ever. The line call the monkey is pretty awesome.
I love that you identify with it that way.
Yeah.
I think that can easily become a trope, because the moral monkey, like, just because of the name, has such like a breadth of application. Like, anytime morality comes into play, call the monkey.
Yeah. Like, we better call the monkey. Like, if something's going down, like, he'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we'll have that ongoing thing happening. This one is, I'm just going to kind of recap this one. You may have seen this not before or not. This is one of the strips that was in my submission, but it was in black and white. So this is one of the strips that helped get me the job, that I was live streaming drawing at the time. I can also go a little bit deeper on, like, I'm 47. I'll be 48 real soon. So, I know this song. It's Home on the Range. But a lot of people don't know the song that he's singing, right? You probably heard it if you hear someone singing it. Frank Sinatra sang it, lots of different, Bing Crosby, like all different types. But it's like basically the classic song of the West, right? It's also the Kansas City or Kansas state of Kansas song, I think, or something like that. I did throw in, to keep that going, I added, a catfish on the plate. Sorry, catfish. We should keep a scoreboard of like Bison 1, catfish 2. Like, how do you? Write that down. Actually, that's a good idea.
I think the community would get into that.
Scoreboard. All right, somebody keep score.
So
All right.
is Dinner Deer eating a mistletoe?
I think it's just a salad. It's just a really like tiny salad.
I thought it was a mistletoe. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Could be some.
Yeah, after all the Christmas celebrations are done, you just have use the most.
Really deep dive nerd wise on the production of this one. I drew this. I'll just go to another one here real fast. I drew it this way. and it was very crisp and a different format, right? So it was going across this way. And in my submission, it was a little bit different size. So whenever I brought it into the new template that I'm using for what we're doing now, the resolution was a little off. Like for those that don't know what that means, it's just a little blurry or something. So I had to take the line art into another program, vectorize it, and then re-put the line art in here to color it. So yeah, it was a little bit of I've also been adding little faces to the
Yeah.
moons and the hills and stuff just because I really like that. I like the idea that there's a lot of different ideas that I have that we haven't really talked about internally too much, but like my imagination goes to the fact that where do VeeFriends come from? Like, what is this magical world that's behind them in the NFTs? And I love it. And like, I think the way that I riff on it is like everything's kind of alive. Like everything has a good energy, and like there's the moon, there's a tree smiling, there's like things like that. It's like a very happy, cartoony world. And of course, in this one, um, someone pointed out, yes, his sleeping bag is the same color as his flannel. Again, there's a little face on the fire. If you can kind of see it.
The details are so good.
Yeah. Kind of keeps me. I hid the cat back here. So yeah, the big reveal was that his head is the shape of his hat, which is kind of a fun thing.
Here's a fun little call out as you get to know the characters, DJ. We have a character called the Bold AF Bat. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
No.
Bold AF, bold as fuck bat. And
oh yeah.
And it's pictured with the moon. And so David's saying the moon should have a bat flying in front of it.
Okay.
Which is fun for future moon appearances.
I'm noting it. Cat is peeking out back there. And also, if you look close enough, you'll see like two little squinty eyes in the darkness here. The cat's there too. But just having fun with that. It kind of makes the time pass whenever I'm inking something or, you know.
I popped up this question from Synchrovan. He says, are the themes directed by Gary before starting to design, or it's all up to you? And I know that you started this one before working on the team and getting input from Gary, but I think people would love to know what that collaborative process is kind of like.
Yeah. So this one definitely was part of my submission, so I had no idea. I just kind of was riffing on this, and they liked it. We can dive a little bit deeper into that. Is that, yeah, I think that everything VeeFriends wise is directed by Gary. So like, let's just take a look at this real quick. I'll just go full screen here real quick with my.
I like this one. Is that Happy Hill from the Series 2 scenes?
Yeah. So I'm calling it Story Mountain. Behind the scenes, this is how we're going to do some brainstorming with the team. We did the first, but you can see all of the. If you're very familiar with Gary, he has clouds and dirt. So up here in the clouds, like our North Stars, are all the top 13, or 12 and a half, as you'd say, but key pillars of what VeeFriends is about. And think of this as like, I'm sure we'll show it in the future. I don't want to give away too many ideas, but there's a lot of Post-it notes that will go on these topics, so that we're going to touch all these topics that Gary is really pushing into the world to make the world a happier place. So that's what kind of VeeFriends is all about. There's our moon again, moon guy. Over here, I've got, Burn Island just in the background. We don't know what we're going to do with that. Maybe some ideas can go to the graveyard. Not that they're dead, but they're just, resting until they come back. And then we have here, so if you look GPV, that's like Gary's points of view on things. So you'll hear Gary say things about 8th place trophies, or how do we convert that into a comic strip, something that people can learn from or want to put on their board. So then we have the dirt down here, and so the clouds and the dirt, right? So the dirt's the actual work. So on the actual workboard that I've designed, we're writing the strips, we're getting in there and like working on it together, and the whole team pretty much. Also, you got a little thing for audience. There's a sign here for audience signals. So Jeremy, Ezra, the gang, when they see what's going on out there. We hear it because a lot of times I'm going to have my head down just kind of drawing. It's really great to have a team that's like knowing what's going on, what's the vibe in the community. So that's kind of the that's a little behind the scenes of that's how my brain thinks. Like I think visually, and I want to have the brainstorming be very fun on this. We actually have this board pretty filled up right now with some ideas. Um, and
I love it so much. I saw in the left the hills we die on. You didn't mention it. I'm
yeah.
curious.
So I'll open that back up real quick. Where did it
That's
go?
like such a fun. I think Gary's talked about it before. Like usually in the context of like falling on your own sword, like he any advice that he gives in his content, he's actually implemented for usually 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I comprehend this like hills we die on idea. Do you have any like for VeeFriends comics or maybe more broadly that you're like these are this is at least one hill like we'll die on?
I think that you guys would know better, but I would say something like, love is always the answer
Yep.
and empathy like
Kindness is
this.
a superpower.
Right. Yeah, there's quite a few. I don't want to, give too much away there, but
Sure.
for that it's like the idea of by the way, like I dive pretty deep on this because I'm also like a creative strategist and stuff like that in my previous job. So I like to think about ideas like this is that you can have a point of view, but is it a unique point of view? Like, is it somehow you're saying it a little bit differently? And Gary does that, of course. I think VeeFriends does that as well. Um, so, like, it's a really good point of view when there's an opposing point of view. And, we want to avoid like politics. We want to avoid the things that bring you a negative feeling. We would rather have it so that I call this the recipe. Um, the recipe is very well known around advertising and storytelling, movies, advertising world. And it's, the idea that the content should make you laugh, cry, love, or think. And if it can do one of those things, great. There's a lot of commercials that are just like super hilarious. So for the comic strip, we want that to be this. So like I kind of gauge the ideas too, like what is this comic? What's the purpose of this specific comic? You know?
That's awesome. I actually haven't heard that recipe before.
No? I mean, I
Laugh,
think
cry, love, or think. Makes perfect.
yeah, there's a few different guys that have said it. They've never written it down like this, but this is just to kind of remind myself. I also have a post-it note that's well, you can't see it, but I have a
I can
post-it
see it.
note right next to my desk just to remind myself like, am I hitting these things or is it just a filler? Like are you just filling the bucket or is it going to do at least one of these things? And if you can do all four of those things, it's like a goal. It's like an all-star. It's like those are the commercials
Mhm.
and the movies that win and like that's the goal, right? So yeah, so that's the brainstorming board for now. Maybe we'll
I
come
think
back to it when it's in like full color when I have time and stuff like that. So um what day were we on? Okay, so we're on
we're on
Friday
the
already, right?
cowboy. Yeah, we just finished the cowboy.
All right, yeah, we just finished the Cowboys. So today's self-aware hair, you know, hedgehogs reading the understand yourself, which I forgot to make a version of this. I was going to make a blank, no words on this so that people can just make memes or whatever. I'm sure you can still do it yourself, but um, we can make them reading any kind of book or change the character behind the book. There's all kinds of cool things. I also kind of want to promote um, reading if we can, you know, like reading actual real books.
Absolutely.
I do see a mistake here now that I'm looking at it really close is that this half of the book is colored one way and then this half of the book is colored the other way. I just must have used the wrong tone there. So I'm going to see some mistakes as I'm going through. So
Mhm.
it's not perfect. So yeah, in this case, it's self-aware hair. If you read the comic strip, by the way, thanks for sharing the comic strip, liking it, putting it
100%.
out there, because another thing we'll talk about a lot in this show is also the fact that we want to promote these ideas outside of just the VeeFriends universe that already exists. So if you're a fan of VeeFriends already and you're in the VeeFriends community, these characters are these comics are such a great way to share some kind of bigger idea with people that aren't familiar with VeeFriends. Bring them into the community, and then have them spread the love. So that's kind of understand yourself, because I was toying with that being the cover of the book, and so it is on the second panel. And then this is a really corny dad joke, but he's looking in the mirror. It's about self-reflection. This is the deeper message about reflecting on yourself. Kind of like looking in a mirror, you see things that you might not have seen before or thought about. And the joke is that he needs a haircut. He sees that he needs a haircut. And self-aware hair says we all start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. And your physical appearance too can be something that you're not aware of. Like, I've had some friends that didn't know that, like, everyone, there was no candor given to them about, like, hey, you might want to wash your clothes, or just take care of yourself. And they weren't aware at all. They had no self-awareness. And when you told them, then they were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I needed to shave today.
DJ, just so you know, we lost your feed.
I
don't know if you did that on purpose.
Picture? Yeah, I think I just did it on purpose, okay, but let's put my face back there. It's okay. Okay, so that covers our Monday through Friday. I'm not going to show Saturday strip because you're going to have to tune in for Saturday strip, because on this show we'll show Sunday through Friday, and then we'll show the strips as they're already up. So I don't want to get too far ahead on that, but you'll know that if you watch the Deep Work stream, you'll know the strip for tomorrow has Mickey Mouse on it. But this is a behind the scenes sneak peek of Sunday strip. So it's a big strip. I just wanted to show it because I showed it a little bit in the Deep Work stream. Tune in Sunday for this strip. I'm pretty happy with the coloring on this one too.
Yeah, I just actually read this right before I came on the show, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, this one came directly from Gary through our chat, and this was one that came from Gary, and we changed the character. Like, there was no character given for who was upset, and I think Andy was like serious sperm whale. So the president picked this one.
That's a fun detail.
Yeah.
There's another fun detail about the serious sperm whale that you probably haven't heard yet. When Series 1 VeeFriends NFTs minted, they were in a Dutch auction. So it meant that they started at the highest asking price, and then they slowly went down over time until they sold out. And the full suite of NFTs didn't sell out for like 3 weeks, I want to say. But the serious sperm whale was the very last character to be fully sold out. There's another category of access tokens. Like, the last ever minted was a lunch ladybug, because it's much higher price because you're paying for access to Gary and go to those meals. But as far as like the main admission characters, the ones that just give access to VCon, serious sperm whale was the last one. And at the time in the community, we were like, this is the de facto underdog of VeeFriends. And Gary made a comment like, oh, I'm going to go hard on the sperm whale because we're all fading how important it is to be serious, that kind of thing. So it's fun that it's getting some love here.
Yeah, so you have to tune in to see what he's, being serious about. But I am happy that one of the things that I'm pretty happy about is that his speech balloons are the water, like some of them are the water spouting out of his head. So, but yeah, the main character that Gary shot me was, we need to do Rational Rattlesnake. Let's put that in there. Now, somebody else on the Deep Work stream told me that there's a number 5 on the Rational Rattlesnake. I don't see it in any of the artwork that I've found.
They might be thinking of the Authentic Anaconda.
Okay, that's what I was going to say, because I'm trying to stay true to the version 2 as much as I can.
I'm looking right now.
Okay,
if
I'm wrong, we'll add it.
Not on the Rational Rattlesnake, but on the Authentic Anaconda there is.
Okay, I got it right then, I think. And I did the same thing with the word balloons on him. On that, it kind of happened by a happy accident. I was like, ooh, it kind of coiled around like a snake.
Oh.
So I'm kind of having fun with the hand-drawn balloons and things too. So again, not something that you can do with like a cut and paste sort of sort of thing. So, okay. For what are we doing next here? What time?
Drawing new characters?
Yeah, drawing new characters. All right, so going with that, I have to draw the moral monkey. So I'm just going to open up a new template here.
Call the monkey.
We're going to call the monkey right now, and I'm just going to go ahead and just turn these off. And I'll try to zoom in as much as possible too when I'm actually getting to drawing here. So I've never drawn the moral monkey. So I'm kind of curious, and I didn't get a chance to ask anyone like what kind of monkey moral monkey is, because I have got one note about moral monkey. I'm trying to, sorry.
No, you're good. Take your
Bear
time.
with me here.
I'm trying to figure out how many snakes we have. I thought we had 4, but I can only remember 3. I feel like, the steadfast snake. I always liked that there was like a crew of snakes. You got the rational rattlesnake, which we just saw,
Yeah.
authentic anaconda, the confident cobra, and then the steadfast snake.
Yeah. I've been doing that actually, collecting like the dogs. Like, there's quite a range of birds, like there's like a family.
Tons of birds.
Yeah.
It's like one of the biggest groups. Yep.
Let's see make sure I can do this. Make sure this is going to show up.
I don't know the answer to your question about what type of monkey moral monkey is. And I just Googled monkeys and there's so many. There's so many kinds.
It looks like a classic kind of, Donkey Kong. Well, the note that I have that's from Gary was that moral monkey would be more like a big brother type, like Josh Brolin in Goonies, is what he said. So that made me think, if you're familiar with Goonies, like like he's like the bigger brother figure that's going to step in to try to help a situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to just get the shape of.
It's interesting. Donkey Kong is technically a gorilla. And
Yeah.
we have gratitude gorilla. I think there are 3 apes. No, there's 4. There's moral monkey, gratitude gorilla, alert ape, and then offense oriented orangutan.
Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm making like a really small sketch just for the character pose that I want to do. And then I'll zoom in and I'll go a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. We're still getting a lot of folks in from Gary. Appreciate everybody saying hello. Hi, Peg. Hey, Neil, David, Othan. Welcome. Green Dog's still hanging.
So we're going to draw this monkey. So while I'm drawing the monkey, Jeremy, do you want to talk about your vibe? Like, if anybody wants to talk about in the chat too, like how you get your vibe back when your vibe's been stolen.
Yeah. So for everybody in the chat, 2 of our comics this week were actually around vibe. The vibe is our word of the week. And Befuddled Burglar stole the vibe from a crew of VeeFriends. You can see those comics on Instagram and Twitter and the like. And so the question of the day is, how do you get your vibe back? I actually saw a comment from Crypto Mama who said, like, I feel like I'm at a place where nobody can steal my vibe. And I really want to hear more from her on like, what does that mean? Like, what has she built around herself? Because when I think for myself, it really, a lot of it comes down to like set and setting. Like, what is the mindset that I'm in that makes me feel like I don't have my vibe? And like, how is my setting? Maybe the clutter of my desk, the laundry I haven't done, the number of unread emails, both physical and digital setting that is like contributing to that. And is there something? So I feel like, to answer the question more directly, what I usually do to get my vibe back is I do the lowest hanging fruit on my to-do list.
Okay.
Like, sometimes you just need time to not be okay. Maybe you need to wallow, or you just need to feel angry, or like sometimes you have to move through some emotional things. But if there's nothing like external that's particularly difficult that I'm going through, it usually for me comes back to that laundry list. Like I have so many lists in different places and like um staying organized. Funny how we were talking about this in the team meeting earlier. Like staying organized has actually been a difficult thing for me my entire life, just as a creative and always dabbling in different stuff. So being able to just focus on one thing and get it done gives me that like just bit of momentum that I need to. I don't know. I guess feeling capable brings my vibe back. And so sometimes when you're facing a really big challenge, or it's like, it's like how they say, like, how do you eat an elephant is like one bite at a time. And you're looking at the elephant, and you're like, oh my God, it's going to run me over. Like, just focusing on the simplest thing that I can do right now to kind of ground myself in being capable, um,
Hmm.
really, really like gets my energy reset and right.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned about disorganized, and we are you a Capricorn? Was that
I'm an Aries.
okay? Yeah, so um, I felt the same way about that. Was the question of the day, was what astrological sign? So they were like, "Oh, you guys are really organized," and I was like, "I don't feel organized really at all. Maybe file wise, maybe a little bit, but like my desk is pretty messy that you can't see." And it's funny that you mentioned that because even before, right before getting this job, I realized, well, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this room, and I kind of followed something I learned at well, I followed Jesse Itzler from seeing him at VCon.
Hmm.
Um, and then I've got his big ass calendar on the wall up there. So I've been following his content, and he's got this thing about decluttering yourself. So in December, I was really doing that process of kind of going through my books on my shelf, going through all that stuff, and just trying to like, it made my mind feel a lot more clear. Like I wouldn't feel as rushed or, um, um, frantic about like, oh man, I'm going to start a new job and it's going to be a lot of work and I'm not going to have time to get this stuff done. But just by attacking it a little bit at a time, and that's what I did. I spent a couple days doing that, and it does really. When you're a creative, you need that space uh, to work in,
Yeah.
Um, and I liked what you said too about rest. That
Mhm.
I got a lot of artist friends, and they're like, they're feeling burnout and they don't give themselves time to just chill out. And I I must shock them when I'm like, it's okay to just take a weekend and take a week even
Mhm.
and just reconfigure yourself a little bit.
It's so true. I saw a wonderful video just this week actually. It's funny how there are these little synchronicities and what's happening in the team meetings, happening on the stream. And I watched this video. I can't remember the name of the channel, but he was talking about rest, and he was saying that so often people have a vacation, but they don't actually rest. And that like the word vacation comes from vacate, meaning to leave.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when people go on vacation, they either take a lot of what they're leaving with them, or they set up like this, series of events and activities. They go to Disneyland with their family and they have like all of these things happening that they don't actually get time to just leave all that and, fully rest. And like at the end of the day, like rest takes time. There's a reason the body needs 6 to 8 hours of sleep, right?
Yeah. You mentioned that about vacation. Boy, that sounds like me. I was not able to take a vacation on one of my old jobs about 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't really take a vacation at all. Um,
Mm,
and then when I did, it felt like I wasn't really resting. I was worried about, oh man, when I come back to work, there's going to be so much to do and the
yep.
fires and like in this. What is that? Is it like the world that we live in? Right? It's just the world that we live in just makes you want to be on all the time. You know. Um,
You know, I think that's definitely a part of it. And like, no one's maybe not no one, but like most the far majority of people are not immune from societal expectations. And that tends to come from, big box movie narratives or our parents or like the people who raised us and like friends and family, and then I feel like Gary talks about this a lot where like we as individuals tend to adopt the expectations of other people instead of having an alignment for what we actually want for ourselves. And like you ask someone directly what it is they want, it's pretty rare that people have clarity on what that is. So I give all that context because I think the answer to your question is actually a lack of patience. Like that feeling of going away from work and then being stressed about like the progress of things when you return, maybe wanting to use that vacate time to catch up is actually really like I would say at least in part it has a relationship to patience and perspective. The same way that like you can be, you can graduate college or even get accepted to college and then start planning out, years and years out, but then like, I'm kind of going all over the place, but I think about myself when I did get accepted to college, I transferred in. So like I was immediately thinking about 2, 3, 4 years out, what my journey there would be. But I would rarely ever have the patience with myself, even over the course of a week, to do something that like just to develop and require time to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was very I worked at a German company for 10 years, and all of my European friends take great vacations. And
Mm,
they didn't really understand the culture of, in America mostly, that we work, you know, but we also have things that we're doing. We have our job, and then we have our side hustle or our passion project.
right.
Um, but I thought, there were times where I thought, wow, it would have been great to go to Majorca or whatever. Everyone was always going to Majorca in Germany. Uh, but then I thought, like, I don't, I like having a side thing. I enjoy, um, but they almost made it seem like it was a bad thing. Like, oh, you shouldn't be doing comics and working so hard. Like, why would you stay up afterwards and continue to work on something? And I'm like, because I just really enjoy it. So I kind of feel like there's not a demonization of that, but it's a different culture, I think. Like, um, in work, well, you already have a job. Why do you need to do that? Like, you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I do know what you mean.
And I couldn't. You can't really say like, um, it's not good or bad. It's just that people are different. So I wouldn't say like they didn't have a dream or an ambition. It's maybe they forgot what they wanted to do. They got comfortable with, and that's cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. We've heard Gary say it too. Like, um, if you're digging what you're doing and you're totally fine with how you're living, then that's cool. But if you're like, dreaming of something and not putting the work in, then I don't know. Um,
Yeah, and I think like we also have to consider perspective that in the Maslow hierarchy of needs, like being able to even put time and attention and patience and the things that it takes to build a dream is relatively high up there. Like the people who are taking on these side hustles and like working maybe leaning too far into like, speaking of balance with meet me in the middle, like leaning too far when it comes to um burnout. Like part of that is like driven by necessity. Like they don't have a lot of people, they don't have the capacity to separate and like make space and have that balance, which may be a product of lack of patience, but I think more often or in tandem is just like a lack of security given, how expensive it can be to live in America and tons of other factors that are
yeah,
unique to each person.
yeah, it's interesting. It's just an interesting thing. I've had conversations where here we're getting this monkey lit. So there's just the first monkey version there.
Love it.
We got a question here.
Oh no, this is just a comment. David was kind of commenting on our conversation, says
Oh,
it's amazing when you find something where you want to work on it outside of the standard time. And it is. It's one of the best feelings.
Yeah, for sure. I was just gonna say, yeah, there's our monkey. The first monkey looks pretty good. He's kind of on model a little bit. Now I'm gonna try and draw him like answering a phone. He's answering the call.
Mhm.
He's gonna be answering the call of the monkey.
By the way, I saw some comments saying that Moral Monkey looks a lot like a chimpanzee. Maybe like
Yeah,
a, yeah.
yeah. It's not my first rodeo drawing a monkey. I drew Monkey Man Unleashed for Brian Lynch at View Askew and or his own comics, Monkey Man Unleashed, for a while. That was on Kevin Smith's website ages ago. So I got to draw a lot of monkeys. That's why I was like, what kind of monkey is this?
Mm.
That was a magical monkey. That was like a blue monkey with like buttons on his chest. Look it up, Monkey Man Unleashed. It's quite a interesting comic. It's funny you mentioned about like I've now that I'm thinking about it as I'm drawing here, like I've had conversations where people were concerned about me. Like they're like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm working on comics." And they were like, "Are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Like, are you gonna burn out? Like I'm like, "No, like my only problem is maybe I have to sleep and and eat."
But we
Like,
love those people too. Like it's great to have people in your corner that care. But
oh
I
yeah,
totally understand like it being hard to understand when you're truly passionate and like convicted
yeah.
into your craft.
I mean, you might not realize it when like whether you're a musician or an artist, painter, like or even like a YouTube creator or something. Um, you might not realize that like when you say things like, "Well, I've got a deadline. I'm working on this new video or this new thing," that people perceive it a different way. Like, "Oh my God, that sounds like a lot of work. Like you must be stressed out." And it's like, "No, this is great. Like, this is a great problem to have if it's a problem at all. So, um, that's all my YouTube friends too are like that. Like
Mm.
they have probably 16 hours of editing in front of them, and a person that's never done that before might go like, "Wow, that's going to be terrible."
Yeah, that sounds daunting or
That sounds
exhausting.
daunting, yeah. And they're excited. They're like, "I can't wait to work all weekend on this new video or this new story or something." So
Yeah, that reminds me of one of our video editors, Jesse. I can't remember how it came up, but we at some point, maybe it was around VCon or something, we were saying like, what's your favorite piece of content that you've made? Like just ever. Like what's your favorite piece of content? Which is kind of a big question. Like, oh my gosh, I can hardly remember what I did yesterday to think the catalog of everything is a lot. And Jesse had the greatest answer. What was the best video or what's been your favorite video to edit or make or whatever? And she says the next one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally understand that. Like I find myself even working on these strips and I'm like, this is the best. Like I'm in the middle of
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
like, this is the best work I've ever done. Like, like working on that sperm whale comic. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just figured out that, speech balloon thing in the water. It just kind of worked out. I was super, no one was there to like celebrate that moment with me, but it just felt like, oh cool, I can't wait to figure out new stuff in the comics, in the future. So um and it used to be my wife and my friends would tell you like I didn't like coloring as much. It like takes me a little bit longer, but I've gotten it down now to where it's one of my favorite things to do. It's very meditative, and I can just explore with color and a lot of those Easter eggs and things that um, happen in the coloring stage too, where I'm like, ooh, I want to add this in there.
Mm.
I want to pause and add this thing. Kind of looks fat here. I don't want to.
I also think it's just such a fun education to watch you do this. Like for me, somebody who is not a visual artist, but I understand shapes very well. and to see how you combine certain things, how a lot of like the detail that you put in is actually a process of removal instead of addition, like especially when we're getting to the color stage and stuff. I find that really interesting. I actually feel like a large degree of confidence that there will be many people inspired to draw more because of these shows.
Yeah, that's super exciting to me as well. Just that I've drawn comics for a while, quite a while, but to have like a built-in community, to come
Mhm.
into a project where it's like there's a built-in community already. There's a captain of the ship that's, I mean, the greatest captain of a ship you could ever imagine, right, Gary? Um, and then my own ambitions of like comics itself, like the art form, and like um, I'm really passionate about that. Like visual storytelling breaks down language barriers. Like I could just geek out on comics for a long. That's why this is the comic show. Really, like we can talk about those types of things, but that I just feel like comics used to be a lot more popular. When I say comics, I'm not talking like Spider-Man, things like that. I'm talking like the 4-panel comic strips in the newspapers
Mhm. And we're
were
bringing it
really,
back.
what's that?
And we're bringing it back.
And we're bringing it back, yeah, in a different kind of way, or same way but different, different kind of way.
Yeah. In
Um,
our own way.
I just talked to a guy I think he's in his third. I think he's 31, and he's never opened a newspaper, and that blew my mind.
Wow.
Like he's like, yeah, I'd never even messed. Maybe in school for a project, he
Yeah.
said
Never needed to.
he never needed to, and it's like so. Therefore, you know. But my point about the business side of comics would be like newspapers used to sell more newspapers because their comic was in the newspaper, right? And then they stopped pushing they pushed the comics out for like advertising space. And then more people were like, I don't want to buy that newspaper anymore, for it's mostly
Sure.
just ads now. That sounds very familiar. It sounds like the internet now, like where you're reading an article on. How many times have you popped open an article and that's like the pop-up comes up and says you must subscribe to read this article or watch this
Oh,
ad, and you're like,
so
never,
many
never mind.
times. So many times.
Yeah, like never mind. I don't need to know what's going on this article. Okay, so yeah, I've got the
Looks great.
More Monkeys looking pretty good. The other one I've got to draw this week, so I'm just going to get into that. I'm just going to do this sketch. I'm not going to finish him. So I got a pretty good understanding of how this character looks, maybe what his character's kind of like. They're calling him. I've got a really funny twist to this one. Um,
Can't wait.
I can't wait to do. A lot of
While
it's
you're
silly.
while you're getting set for that, let me reset the room for everyone quickly. So we got about 30 people listening across platforms. Thank you for tuning in to the VeeFriends Comics Show. My name's Jeremy. I'm on the creative team at VeeFriends. You're watching DJ Kaufman, cartoonist, create VeeFriends comics in real time. Please share the stream with your friends. We love seeing the comments come in. But as we come and round out the hour, would like to see everyone answer today's question of the day, question of the week. Question of the week is, how do you find your vibe? We had one of our VeeFriends characters steal the vibe in a recent comic, and would love to hear from you. How do you find your vibe when maybe you're in a funk or you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, whatever that looks like? What sort of things do you do for yourself to find your vibe? Would love to see some answers. And after going through and reviewing this week's comics, sort of you can see them here, sort of sharing some insights from DJ's creative process, collaborating with Gary, with Andy, with the rest of the team. DJ went on to draw some characters for the first time. You just saw Moral Monkey answering the phone. And now we're moving on to your poor relationship with time is your biggest vulnerability. One of my personal favorite characters, DJ. You probably don't know. I would put this character in my top 5 favorites because I have a poor relationship with time. And I also really love the glow up, like to see from Gary's original series 1 sketch drawing to the like personification the anthropomorphization. I said that word wrong. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They made the art a human, and I just think she's adorable. I just really like it.
I noticed on the version 1, there was a boy too, right? So he's
There
gone.
is.
We lost him.
Mystery.
Where is he? Maybe that'll be a future.
Maybe he has a rich relationship with time, and we'll see him in a later episode.
Yeah. So there's going to be, she's going to, of course, appear in next week's comic. We'll talk about that in a second. The following Sunday, the 21st, that'll be a Sunday comic featuring this character. So we've got the basic idea for what this is. As I'm sketching just a pose, I just want to do a different type of pose as I'm drawing it, because it's pretty, not, I can kind of tell like what's what, but I want to give her a different kind of pose here when I zoom in on her. I'll answer the vibe question real quick. I think for me, it's easy, is that to get my vibe back, I usually draw. On days that I don't get to draw, which is no longer a case, but on days when I didn't get to draw or express myself, even in a sketchbook, I just felt like a funk. Like I felt like, oh man, this is terrible. And even my wife would be like, "Did you draw today?" And I was like, you know what? I didn't sketch or anything. And just by taking that little bit of time, if it was 10 minutes or something like that, it helped a lot. It just helped my mood for the day. And I would start my days. So I started waking up at 5 a.m. Again, we're looking at, you look at online gurus and stuff that are like, wake up early, make your bed, all that stuff.
Right.
I don't make my bed, but, but I started like going, okay, I'm going to force myself to get up at 5. And I had a couple hours to myself. Those were great. Like I still do that.
It's impressive. It takes a lot of discipline to do that. Mostly to just go to bed early enough that you get the rest you need.
I kind of just follow this rule. Like I go to bed when I'm tired, and usually my body will say around 10 o'clock or something, I am tired. It's time to go to bed, So, but for people that think that that's impressive and they're like, wow, you wake up at 5. It's not like I spring out of bed and I'm drawing things, like
sure.
The first hour of the day is very like, walk the dog, feed the animals, make coffee, kind of. But as I'm doing that, my brain is activating and like, what am I going to be working on today? Like, what do I want to start my day with? Don't turn on the news. I used to do that all the time. Like wake up, turn on the news, and it was always bad news. And, it would affect your day. So now I would just like use that time to read a book, or, I wouldn't even surf YouTube really, because like you get served things, that are like going to make you feel, meh, So stay off the internet for like an hour or two if you can. Read a book, draw, write music. That's kind of the nice thing to do in the morning. You'll feel so much better, no matter if it's going to the gym or whatever, if you start your day with something that you activating your body in a good, healthy way. Look at me with all these tips.
Some fun answers here that really align with what you're saying too. Billy says, music creates a vibe for me that sometimes unexpectedly compels me to write. I love. Working out to great music is a great way to pump the vibes. Anthony says, music again, or meditate or read something inspirational. I think these are all really great.
Yeah, and if I'm losing that, like some people will say like, well, you can't want to draw all the time. And we're back to that again. Like I'm like, well, I can sketch something. I'll do scribble challenges or something like that just to get myself motivated. But music for me as well. Like one of the prompts I'll do is I'll listen to my favorite songs or my favorite artists, And when a lyric really pops out at you, I might try to interpret that lyric in a sketch. You know, um,
Love that.
yeah. And if it's good enough, tag the artist online. Try to get some attention, or maybe they'll reshare it or something if that's what you're looking for in your art. But I don't want to give away too much on this idea, but there's so much to do. So one of the mysteries, it's now solved, I guess, but was the idea of this calendar saying January 21st. What did that mean? So we
Right.
talked about that behind the scenes a little bit. Jeremy, you want to talk about?
Yeah. Want to reveal it now?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's fine. So just as like added context for everyone, if you've been following VeeFriends on social, on Instagram and Twitter, or X in particular, we've been really trying to give an extra attention to at least one character per week. And this comic is going to be partly in preparation for Poor Relationship with Times Week. Last week was the Focus Falcon. And so there's a random number of different content pillars that it's not random. There's a select number of content pillars that like we're focused on. I think folks will recognize the definitions, whereas Focus has a Webster's dictionary definition. We want our own VeeFriends definition. And so for us, it was about doing that one thing daily that's going to actually get you towards your goals. You also will likely have seen, or I hope you've seen, if not, like, please check us out on Twitter. We're putting out these character threads that really help people get to know the character, how they can collect the character, whether through our character comfort collection, they want to wear merch like this that features the character, or in the card form. Some characters have pins, some characters have been featured on sneakers. There's a lot more of that coming this year. And where possible, we like to add that kind of insight and detail. Like for Focus Falcon, we talked about the fact that it has a 5 on the neck. And throughout all the VeeFriends characters, you'll find little Easter eggs that Gary added in there. We usually talk about Gary's point of view on the character, if possible, like how it came to be a VeeFriend, etc. And so when it comes to your Poor Relationship with Time, the calendar date of January 21 has kind of always been a mystery in the community. And we'll include it in the character that's coming, but you guys can get the early information. And it's quite simple. When you revealed it to me, DJ, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But just like goes to show like how much thought really went into the creation of these characters. So January 21st tends to be that period where people fall off of their New Year's resolutions. Now, if you think about that relative to the character itself, your poor relationship with time is your biggest vulnerability. I suppose having the perspective, setting goals, being disciplined, being consistent, is a really big piece of like setting new habits. It's broadly known. I don't know if it's actually scientifically accurate, but like people often say it takes 3 weeks to establish a new habit, whether good or bad. So that would also put you at that January 21st mark. So if you are, if you're making a resolution, you're trying to like make a change in 2024, you might resonate with this character. Might also like set a reminder for yourself on January 21 and ask yourself, how did you do over the next 3 weeks? Can you do better over the next 3 weeks? It's not about like beating ourselves down about what we haven't done. It's about doing more with the time that we have while we have it. And that's where the calendar day comes from.
Yeah, I think it was there's different ways that you can. That's definitely the thing, right? Is that it takes about 3 weeks to make a habit, and this is usually also the time that people drop off. So there's like 2 different ways of looking at it. But the definitive came from Gary. Was like, what does this mean? And I just asked him like straight up, like, what does this actually mean? And he said it's the time that people fall off from whatever goals they set for their resolutions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also be a reminder. Like, I was going a little bit deeper in my brainstorming of this topic, was like, why didn't you get that thing done? Why didn't you? I mean, well, resolutions are so strange. Like, I'm going to lose weight this year, or like whatever. But like a bigger goal, like, why didn't you launch that comic strip, or why didn't you write music today or every day? Like, you got to ask yourself, was it something that you really wanted to do? So it kind of ties to self awareness. Like,
Absolutely.
are you doing it for yourself or because someone else told you to do it? Like, those are all very interesting. Um, like how those topics can kind of tie together. Self awareness and time together
Mm.
is like such an interesting. We'll be taught. That's kind of what the Sunday strip will kind of meld some of those ideas together um, when I'm working on it. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So this is pretty good. I mean, this is like the
Fun.
human characters pretty easy for me to do, I think.
Mm.
That's fun.
Cool. And so we'll see this comic next week or the following week.
Yeah, this comic that I'll be working on, the 4-panel comic, I think it'll come out on Wednesday.
Mhm.
The monkey comic will be on, and we can kind of give a sneak peek a little bit. The monkey comic will go out on Tuesday, as far as the calendar looks like right now. So we're going to call the monkey on Tuesday.
Call the monkey.
The sneak peek of Monday's comic, which is a holiday. It's also Martin Luther King Day, so everybody's off. You'll have to tune in to see the reveal of this comic, but we've got the characters dreaming.
Mm.
So we can see here the catfish is dreaming of being friends with the bison. How cute! So and
It's so good.
yeah, I can't wait to color this today. I got to color this today because you guys have to have time to schedule it out and all that. And then
What
we
do you
have
guys think for those who are in the chat and know the kind of like bromance, friendly rivalry between Josh and Tom? How are we loving the Brave Bison catfish dynamic? Do we want more? Do it because I feel like I could take another dozen comic strips
yeah.
in this sort of subplot. I'm curious, I'm curious what the chat thinks about it. It's so fun.
Yeah, yeah. So this comic also features it's kind of a little spoiler, but here's the burglar, and
Hmm.
he's sleeping on the vibes. He's also got
Oh, wow. What a beautiful image.
yeah.
DJ, this is so cool. And wearing the fox's chain and shoes. This is so
His
cool.
underwear's on the floor too, so like his socks, laundry. But he's dreaming of like graduating or something, like being like I don't know. You don't know what's going on in the burglar's life, right? Like,
Yeah,
burglars don't want to be burglars, I'd imagine. So
most.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and there's another little big reveal to the end of this, so you'll have to follow VeeFriends
Follow VeeFriends everywhere.
everywhere. I was writing like TikTok, da 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 da, like, but we're everywhere, so
Everywhere.
follow us everywhere.
We're VeeFriends. We've got VeeFriends cards on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. Tap in, everybody. I think we have mostly like deeper community members watching today, but actually curious, just say like I'm new. Like if the Gary sent me crowd is still hanging around, if this is the first ever VeeFriends live stream you've tuned into, VeeFriends or VeeFriends cards or otherwise, please say I'm new, so we can just get an idea. Would love to just hear from folks. Bruno stuck around. Love to hear that. All right, go ahead, DJ.
Oh no, I'm just moving around as you're talking. I'm just having fun moving this around. So
Nice.
yeah.
I really like that banner.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, the idea here is that, like, the classic Sunday comic strip, Sunday newspaper comic strip, they're gonna be a little bit bigger, and hopefully every week we'll have some kind of clever, fun little banner that we can reuse or whatever. It just makes the
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get newspapers again. Who knows? Maybe we'll bring back newspapers too next.
Maybe.
Yeah, so definitely tune in for that. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover today.
It's a great show.
I'll get back to go back to my.
We can do like a last call for questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
If anybody's sitting on a question, please type it in the chat now, and we'll try to get to it before we wrap up. Otherwise, we're gonna ramp this down in the next couple of minutes.
Yep, gonna start working on the. Actually, while we're waiting for any questions, I'm gonna start the coloring process on this strip because that's what I'll be doing the rest of the afternoon. So
nice. Somebody just asked if we have a cuddly bear character for people who like to share hugs. And there's not a bear. There is a brunch bear. But I feel like most of our characters are pretty cuddly. You know?
Yeah, there's the panda bear. You know, he's a bear.
Yeah, there's the patient panda bear.
Technically.
Good call.
Yeah. That's one of my favorites. So yeah, these are really fun to color. I can do I can kind of explore some digital painting when I'm doing this too.
Oh, fun.
Outside of the.
Welcome, Dominic. Glad you stuck around. Kimberly, thanks for being here. Bruno.
Am I available for freelance projects? No.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Oh, there's a gracious grizzly bear. The chat is keeping me honest today. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's right. It's funny you mentioned freelance projects because I've had a ton of, in my own the personal life side of this is, people that weren't really paying too much attention. Now suddenly they're seeing my comics in my personal life, and I'm getting a lot of people reaching out asking for artwork, and I'm like, yeah, this is what this is what I do now. Like this is my job now, so I got to, I don't really. I love to draw, but if I'm going to spend any time drawing outside of VeeFriends, it'll be for myself probably instead of other things. I would say I did get I talked to Ivory Lotta. She's a WNBA All-Star. Ivory Lotta. She's on ESPN now. I drew her children's book called Despite the Height for her a couple years ago, and we were already talking about doing like a sequel to her children's book. So she's the only one that's like my friend that gets a pass. So she's got the first dibs on my extra time if I have any in the future. And Gary's coming out with an awesome children's book, so I'm excited about that. We'll talk about that in another stream.
Can't wait to read it. Yeah.
Children's books are really dear to my heart. One of my biggest mentors in art was Fred Crump Jr., who drew classic fairy tales, but he drew them with African American children. So that back in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of like storybooks that were multicultural and could show to inner city kids and stuff. And so he drew that stuff. And he was my 8th grade art teacher, and he's a great guy. And he made his own children's books and put them out. It's kind of one of my biggest inspirations. Cool. Yeah, I'm just going to keep coloring here until you call it a stream, Jeremy, because
I think we can call it. I had a question floating around in my head, but it'll come back to me at the right time. It's been a fantastic show. So fun to hang out with you like this, DJ. And
yeah,
I think for everybody who's watching, I know we had a lot of folks watching for the first time. I see a lot of VeeFriends OG community, Green Dog, Neil, Dana was watching earlier, Jonathan, so many more. Thank you to everybody who's watching. Our plan for now, and like bear with us as we get in the swing of things. We'll do our best to keep you updated, but it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday for live streams at this time, starting at 12:05 p.m. Eastern time, where Monday and Wednesday are deep work streams, literally sharing the process. Basically what you saw today, but without DJ and I adding commentary. just the iPad screen, going through the whatever phase of the comic DJ is working on, whether that's line or color or sketch. And then on Fridays, again at 12:05 p.m. Eastern time, we'll have these more banter, chit chat, insight, Q&A with the audience, VeeFriends comic show, where we'll review the comics of that week and find other tropes and games to make it interactive and fun for everybody. So keep that in mind. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12:05 p.m. Eastern time, and those are all pre-scheduled on YouTube. So not like for the foreseeable future, but if you want to check our schedule, you can also go to the VeeFriends YouTube and see them there. We also have other live stream events on Fanatics Live with the VeeFriends Cards crew. We just had a great show last night. Our next show is going to be Tuesday at 5:55 p.m. Eastern time. That's our standing show. And then we'll be back on Twitter for our live news and updates spaces Wednesday at 5:55. So I guess actually the next stream we'll be back here with you for Deep Work Monday at noon.
Monday's a holiday.
Oh, good call out. Good call out. So Tuesday, it's gonna be so fun when like every day there's something for VeeFriends community members to participate in. Like Tuesday 5:55 VeeFriends cards. Wednesday 12 we've got comics. 5:55 p.m. we got news and updates. Back Friday with the comic show. Like it's gonna be really fun to see this all grow.
Yeah.
Any final words from you, DJ?
Yeah, just for my friends and stuff that were asking, like, when's Gary going to join the streams? Like, I think that'll happen in the future too. He's a busy guy running an empire, but he's definitely wants to join, and we'll do some like live character creation during our comic writing during these streams too. So just keep sharp. Watch the schedule, and we'll announce when he's going to be on. And
yeah. Got two quick questions here. Bruno asks, I'm really curious on what is your favorite brush to start drawing with?
To start drawing with, I use my own brushes, but I draw with a pencil brush. So it's just like a very this one's called Draw or Die Pencil just because it's the pencil that I made. But like it mimics like a graphite for me. So if I zoom in, you can see it looks like pencil and it feels like pencil. But yeah, Procreate, if you're in Procreate, it has so many great brushes in just the regular old. I think there's actually a pencil sketching bucket here.
And there's so many different filters and tweaks you can make.
Yeah, all of these are great. So this peppermint brush, I haven't used it in a long time, but it's got a nice, if you can see it's got a nice texture to it. That's kind of like lead, or like a pencil sketch. So that's what I usually sketch things, all the roughs up with.
Nice.
Some kind of brush like that.
I'm glad you could tune in from Sweden, AZE. That's really cool. Dominic asked a question here. Are you guys planning to do a neighborhood youth live presentation to promote positivity and connection? There's nothing that I can share like that's scheduled in that regard. We are definitely going to be doing some trade shows this year, sharing. And so like, as there are kids events relative to those events, such as the National Card Show or Comic-Con or something of that sort. That'll be interesting, but probably there's no initiative that we can really share. If there's something that you'd like for VeeFriends to be a part of, you can email VeeFriends at info@veefriends.com. Our team will absolutely review it and see if there's a synergy there. With that said, I think we're done. We'll let DJ get some of his focus back. This has been VeeFriends Comics Show. Monday's a holiday, so we'll be back with comics Wednesday at 12:05 p.m. Eastern time. Please like, subscribe, repost wherever you're watching. Actually, it'd be really great. I haven't checked the likes on this video. There's 2 likes right now on this YouTube video, and we've got over 20 people watching. If you would just be so kind to like the video on your way out, that would mean a ton to us as we build this up. Jonathan, any international events on the calendar? Yes, nothing that I can share just yet, but we are working on international exclusive activations for sure.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah. Like and subscribe on your way out.
Like and subscribe.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you very soon.